Hello everyone. Hello. Hi everyone. Hello. Hello everyone. So a very pleasant evening to all. I hope you all are doing well. Hi everyone. So here I am, Chakshu, the host for today's session. Today we have a session with Mudit Jain sir on updated strategy for prelims 2021. And sir will be joining us soon. I hope you all have seen our 1 minute map series on the YouTube channel and also the courses that we have been running free of cost. Patients will be joining us soon. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Hello.
Welcome to Guide IAS, sir. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, sir, firstly, I would like to tell our viewers about your journey so far. Shall I?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir. Today, we have with us a very inspiring personality, Mudit sir, who is an officer as well as author. Before clearing UPSC, sir was selected in Indian Police Service in 2014 and 2015. And in 2018 again, he cleared UPSC and joined Indian Revenue Services. So many, many congratulations, sir, for your success.
Thank you.
Can we begin with the questions now?
Yeah, sure.
So, sir, the very first question that we have is, when did you actually thought of preparing for the UPSC? Like at what moment? And what was the motivation behind that?
Uh, as I have told in previous sessions that I took here or elsewhere and also on my blog, it was a long forgotten childhood dream. I was only 12 years old when my father had first told me about civil services and all. So I always wanted to do that, but as life progressed, I completely forgot about it. I did engineering, then I joined Accenture Bangalore. I did job for 1 year, but then there I realized that I wasn't really adding a lot to society or to country as such. I was working for a private organization. I was happy there also, but then I wasn't adding value, enough value. So that is when I realized that yes, there was a time when I wanted to be a civil servant. So that is when I decided that I need to give it a shot, and I left job for preparing civil services.
Okay, sir. Sir, can you please try if you can rotate your video? Like, there's some
Okay,
issue. Yeah,
is
thank you,
it
sir.
fine now?
Yes, yes, sir. It's fine now. Thank you so much, sir.
Hmm.
So, sir, as
Yeah.
most of the aspirants asked us about that, was there any particular kind of reason that you left IPS and joined IRS?
I got selected in IPS in 2014 CSE, and while undergoing training in the second, third week itself, I had a injury. I had ligament tear in my right knee and then in my left knee. And because of that, I could not complete training that year. I was relegated to the next batch. And when I came home, I got tested and all. So I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis. Now that is a degenerative disorder. So your knees basically they wear out gradually. So the doctors advised me that the best possible way for me to continue in civil services was change of service. And unluckily, I got into IPS again in 2015. I had already written mains for 2015 before joining academy in 2016. on basis of 2014 result. So I wasn't aware that I'll be, getting such injury. I had opted only for IAS and IPS in 2015, and I got 207 rank and landed up with IPS again. But my state was such that I had to again take extraordinary leave from training. 2016, I flunked pre despite clearing civils twice already. And then in 2017, I studied again and opted for IRS.
Okay, sir, that's really inspiring, sir. So the next question that we have is that as we know that the exam has been postponed now to 10th of October, so there are around 130
Mhm.
to 40 days left. So if anyone wants
Mhm.
to start from the scratch for the preparation of the prelims, so according to you, is it possible to clear the exam and what should be the strategy for that?
Uh, there is no right or wrong answer for this question because every aspirant tends to take his or her own time as far as prelims preparation is concerned. See, I can read Lakshmikant in 10 or 12 days. Uh, I have not read Lakshmikant since last 4 years, but then even if now I am given Lakshmikant again, I'll definitely finish it in 10 days. But then for a newbie to read those 1000 pages Lakshmikant now in 10 days, it will be tough. So it depends person to person, but then 5 months is a good enough time, according to me, to prepare for prelims from scratch. All that is needed is complete dedication and concise resources. What mistake people tend to do is they run after n number of sources. So that needs to be cut down because time is less. 5 months is a very less time, but then it is possible to clear pre. Sources must be concise, read concise sources, make notes, and revise those notes multiple times.
Absolutely, sir. So the next question is that how the current affairs should be prepared and of how many months?
Uh, I wrote pre from 2013 to 2017. In 2013, 14, and 15, current affairs weightage was a bit less. But then in 2016, around 38 questions came from current affairs. Similarly, in 2017, 30 plus questions were from current affairs, and the trend has continued. So, second thing is that not only the number of questions has increased from current affairs, but also the timeline. It has extended a lot. Earlier, UPSC used to ask current affairs of only 1 year, but then now you need at least 15 months of current affairs prepared. So if the original exam that was to be held on 27th of June, my advice was to read current affairs from March. Now the exam has been postponed to October.
Yes.
So you cannot, still you cannot skip current affairs of March, April, May 2020. You have to do that as well. Plus you have to prepare current affairs now of May, June, July, August till 10th of September, 10th or 15th of September. So workload of current affairs has increased, but then I am very sure that this year for prelims, at least 1.5 years of current affairs will be asked because UPSC's original timeline was that pre was to be held on in June. So you cannot skip March, May, April 2020.
Okay, sir. So we have one question from the audience that is it necessary to
Hmm.
read NCRTs?
Not all. Now, see, again, there is no yes or no answer for this. You will read n number of blogs, you will read n number of strategies of toppers, and they'll blatantly say that NCRT is must. They'll follow this line with the view that NCRTs will help XYZ person in setting a strong foundation. But then NCRT is definitely not required for something like polity because Lakshmikant is enough. You do not need any background as such. Lakshmikant has enough details and enough nuances to lay a strong foundation. So for polity, NCRT is not required. Similarly, for economy, I didn't find NCRT that helpful because I read Sriram notes back then, spiral copy notes, and those notes were enough for me. But then NCERT is must for history. NCERT is must very very important for geography. Similarly, for environment, NCERT is very good. So there are subjects for which NCERT is required. There are subjects for which NCERT is not required.
Okay, sir, that's really helpful, sir. Thank you. So, sir, next question that we have is that for those who have not given any mock tests yet, so how the mock test should be covered and done, and how many mock tests should be done?
In my view, one should practice around 40 tests, not more than that. Uh, I am very well aware that aspirants have habit of solving even 50, 60, 70 tests, but that can backfire because that can lead to burnout and that is not required. So 40 test max is more than enough. Now, if you have say around 150 days to prelims now and you have not attempted even a single mock test till date, so 150 divided by 40, it comes around roughly 4. So that tells you that in every fourth day you should write one or another test.
Okay.
So that way aspirants can easily plan out. Say if somebody has already written 20 tests, so she has to write only 20 more tests now. So 150 divided by 20 is 7. So every seventh day she should write a test. So again, it varies person to person, and uh, on basis of number of the test and days left, one can plan.
Okay, sir. So for those who have not like yet prepared properly for the prelims, should they focus on optional and answer writing as well for now or not?
Yes, they should because mains timetable is not out yet, if I'm not wrong. So it might well happen that number of days between pre and mains are less this year. So at that stage, uh, if you are not preparing for mains right now, you might repent it later.
Okay.
Because even after clearing pre, it won't be of any help if you are not able to clear mains. Such is the format of this exam. So if you haven't really prepared prelims, the main focus must be on pre, but then you can very well prepare mains like practice one or two questions daily. One or two questions will hardly take 25 minutes out of your entire day's schedule, and 25 minutes is nothing. So that will keep you in touch with mains preparation. Also, you can cover static topics like history or ethics or your optional in next say 80 75 days. Later 75 days before prelims can be completely dedicated to prelims, but then right now next 2 months you can do a mixed preparation of prelims as well as mains, even for those who haven't prepared prelims. For those who have already studied prelims for last 1 year, or people like who are into their third and fourth attempt, this is a blessing in disguise for them. So next 60 70 days, I think they can entirely dedicate to mains preparation, their optional ethics, essay, history, geography, GS1, basically GS1, GS4, essay and optional. These, because these are static questions of mains and they are not going to change in next 150 days. GS2 and GS3 is current oriented, so you need current affairs for that. That should be prepared later on after prelims, but static question should be done before prelims itself.
Okay, sir. So next question is that people find it difficult to qualify the CSAT. So how should be covered?
I, being from engineering background, I never really even practiced CSAT, so I don't think I'm the right person to answer it. But then CSAT came in 2013. So from 2013 onwards, I think if you practice last 8 or 9 years, whatever papers are available, that will be more than enough to clear CSAT. It is not that tough. It is only qualifying in nature. You have to score very less to qualify it. So just try out those previous year question papers, and then if you think that you need additional practice, then based on those question papers only, find a material, find a book in market. There are a number of books in market, hundred of books. People have tendency to just rush to market and buy anything. So don't do that. Don't waste your hard-earned money. First, go through previous year question papers and then decide whether you need a book or not.
Thank you, sir. So next question is that can you please tell our beginners how to frame good answers for ethics?
Okay, so I used to follow one particular structure for section A and another structure for section B. Now, it was a fixed structure for each and every question. Now, say if there is a question like, what do you mean by emotional intelligence? How you will implement emotional intelligence in day-to-day administration? So what I used to do is I'll first identify the keyword in the question. So in this question, keyword is emotional intelligence. So in the introduction itself, I define what is emotional intelligence. Now I know n number of thinkers related to emotional intelligence like Goldman, Kramer, etc. So I'll mention name of thinker along with the definition. Now UPSC has not asked you to mention name of thinker, but then say if 18,000 people are writing mains, each 18,000 would write A or B definition of emotional intelligence. But then if you want that your answer is unique, if you want that your answer stands out, you need to give examiner something extra. According to me, name of thinker, etc., would give that something extra to the examiner. So this takes care of the introduction, that is definition plus thinker. Then as ethics question can also be related to current affair. Like I advise in GS 1, 2 and 3 that if you think that a particular question is asked because it was in news recently, if you can somehow link emotional intelligence with some news, some current affair, you can mention it after introduction in just one or two lines.
Okay.
That such and such thing was recently in news, and this is a basic example of EA. So it does two things. It brings that current affairs flavor in ethics as well, plus it forms an example. Examples are must in ethics answer, as aspirants might already be knowing. Then I'll form headings, subheadings. Like second part is how I will implement it in day-to-day administration. So I'll write a heading, implementation in day-to-day administration, and then I'll write 5 or 6 points in uh, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I won't draw asterisk, I won't draw arrow. Don't write A, B, C, D, E, F. Write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, writing numbers, according to me, has psychological impact on the examiner. If it is a 10 marker question, like say in GS1 or GS2, and I am writing 10 points in 10 marker question, and the examiner does not like say 3 or 4 points, still he or she has to rate me on rest of the remaining of 6 or 7 points, and it will add a moral pressure on the examiner to give me at least 4 out of 10 or 5 out of 10. Now what happens when you draw bullets? Examiner won't come to know the number of points that you have written. So there you are basically taking that advantage away from yourself despite writing the same number of points. So write points, number them. Then in ethics, it is very important that each and every point that you write has something or other from ethics per se, from ethics syllabus, from ethics keywords. Do not write generic points. The question these days are very tough in ethics. These are from the questions are from applied ethics. Like say COVID-19 has created dilemma, uh, uh, whether to save elderly or whether to save young. Such I read this article in daily newspaper. So such question can be asked in mains this year. Now this is a very tough question, applied ethics question. So do not just write plain points. In the 6 points that you will write, try to integrate keywords from ethics. So that will ensure that you are staying on track. Uh, then after writing the answer, you have to draw diagram. Now I am aware that everybody knows that diagram has to be drawn. still people are not drawing diagrams. I am really not aware what is holding people back from drawing diagrams, because diagram, as per me, is equal to +1 mark. So if you are drawing, say, 10 diagrams in one paper and 40 diagrams in four paper, uh, you will end up getting at least +20. If you were getting 400 in GS, you will get 420.
Okay.
20 marks means a lot. Even 1 mark means a lot. 20 marks is huge. So draw diagram in ethics as well, and lastly conclude. So this was the format, like definition, thinkers, headings, subheadings, points, and in points I'll try to include keywords from ethics. I'll write examples, I'll draw diagram and conclude. So these are 7-8 things that you need to have in each and every ethics answer.
Thank you, sir. It would really help our viewers. So we have one question in the comments that how to overcome the distractions during the preparation.
Very simple. Just make and follow daily timetable. Have daily, weekly, fortnightly, and monthly timetable at your disposal. If you have this, then uh, trust me, you will end up being on path that you need to be, and you won't daydream, you won't stress out, you won't burn out, you won't have any sort of distraction. Just make and follow timetable.
Okay, sir. So next question we have is that from where to cover the economic survey and budget for prelims?
You can pick any institutes or coaching materials ready-made summary. Entire budget, entire economic survey is of no use for preparation. I'll tell you why. Because that survey must be of around 400-500 pages. If you read it once or twice, and if you're not making notes out of it, you won't be able to use the survey in exam, in mains. So you end up investing a lot of time, but then you are not using your investment. The better way is to read less, but read it more number of times, so that it is in your mind and you are able to use it. So find a 10-page summary for survey, 10-page summary for budget, read it multiple times, just try to mug it up and use it in your answers.
Okay, sir. So is that India Yearbook necessary to read?
No, not at all.
Okay, sir.
I bought it. My roommate also bought it. He's into IPS. He cleared in 2016. I cleared thrice, and we ended up using it as paperweight.
Okay, sir. The next question is that what should be the strategy for mapping? How can we cover that question?
Okay, so for students who are not from geography background, it can be very tricky to cover mapping. So Atlas itself is huge. Uh, I don't know how people read Atlas. I read Prem Patel book for mapping. For my geography optional, I read Prem Patel book. It is not that thick. It is not that comprehensive like an atlas would be, but then it is enough. It has enough entries. Uh, it has enough list like peaks, mountains, rivers, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, etc. And if there are 10 questions of map in a prelims exam, you will definitely end up covering, say, 5 out of them. Rest 5 must be from current affairs, like world current affairs. Middle East related mapping entries are always asked in prelims, so that is different. But for India related entries, you can prepare from Prem Patel book. On my blog, I once did an analysis of 59 prelims map-based questions asked from 2013 to 2019.
Okay.
So aspirants can go through that post and it will tell you what sort of preparation you need for mapping.
Okay, sir. So next question is that how to cover that art and culture portion from the for the prelims mainly.
It is the toughest portion. I still get chills when I hear about art and culture, because in my first attempt I left it completely.
Okay.
and even then I wrote mains, and in mains there were a couple of questions from art and culture and I didn't know them well. So for my second attempt, the first thing that I did was art and culture. So I read Nitin Singhania's notes, nothing less, nothing more. Nothing apart from that I read. But then I'll advise aspirants to go through Tamil Nadu board book. It is very good. I My roommates, my friends across the years happened to read that book and they told me that it is a really enriching book. So you should go through that book plus read Nitin Singhania's notes. I'm sure they are still available in market. I didn't read his book because his book came really late in 2016 or 17. So I don't know the content of the book as such. I'll vouch for the notes and I'll vouch for Tamil Nadu board book. Do not make notes for art and culture because notes should be made only for those topics which carry uh, definite weightage in mains. Now, in mains, art and culture, at sometimes they ask one question, sometimes they ask two, and perhaps last year they didn't ask any question from art and culture or year back. So it is not a topic on which you should invest much because even in prelims the questions are so tough that you might read say 2 3 books and still you will get that question wrong. So read less for art and culture and just hope for the best. Don't make notes, underline in the book, underline in the notes itself and revise it from there.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, can you tell our viewers about your book, Decode Ethics in Grief?
uh, I don't. I used to talk about it in the past, but then I've realized that as I am the author, my views would be biased only. So
No, sir, just a little bit.
aspirants can go, aspirants can basically go through Amazon and reviews and all. So it is up to them how they find the book. But then uh, toppers across the years, in the previous year as well, they referred my book, and uh, I came to know from various sources like their interviews in YouTube, their interviews on Insights, etc., that they have referred my book. After that, I contacted them that whether I can mention this fact in the book itself that you have referred it. Every one of them agreed. So yes, the book is doing well. It is very close to my heart because while you prepare for civil services, you never think that you will end up writing a book and people will prepare from that book.
Absolutely.
So so it is close to my heart, and I won't like to promote it here.
Okay, sir. So next question is that as we know that the pattern for prelims is changing continuously. So how to deal with that?
Now, this is a this question was asked perhaps yesterday on my Telegram group as well.
Okay.
So my advice is just prepare for the basics. You cannot prepare for a changing pattern because last year UPSC asked around 10, 12 questions on agriculture or more. I don't remember the exact figure. Next year UPSC can ask 10 or 12 or 15 questions on some other topic. Now you cannot prepare for something so uncertain. But what you can do is you can prepare for economics. You can prepare Lakshmikant. You can prepare Spectrum. You can prepare Shankar. So these are the basics that you should cover thoroughly so that if a question is asked directly from those basic books, you do not miss them out. You do not end up marking them wrong. This is the game. The cutoff is decreasing. Cutoff is not that high now. So competition is high, but cutoff is not that high because paper is very tough. So even if you attempt say 80 questions and your accuracy is so good that you end up marking 65 correct, then too you will clear the exam. Do not simply rush after marking 100 questions. You will definitely end up losing. So uh, These are those 20 questions which are completely out of the box, which you can skip, like agriculture based question last year. So just do not panic when you go for prelims this year. Trust me, there will be bouncers. UPSC will definitely go for some or other topic again and ask 15, 20 questions from that topic. Just keep your nerves. Do not panic. That is the game.
Okay.
Prepare basics, prepare them thoroughly. Do not rush after n number of sources.
Sir, as you just told about the accuracy, so can you please tell that how to avoid the negative marking?
I used to attempt 84, 85 questions and I cleared prelims every time, apart from 2016. Then I ended up marking 92 or 93 questions, and a couple of questions were such that I knew that I'm marking wrong.
Okay.
Still I marked. I knew that I had to mark B and I'm marking C. That happens. At times it happens. But then I could not clear prelims by say I 2 marks, 1 or 2 marks. So it is very important to practice. As I told, practice 40 odd tests, practice previous year question papers. That will basically tell you how to differentiate between a paper that is easy and a paper that is tough. So it is very important to know what is a tough paper. So when you write 2021 paper and you find it tough, then you have to hold yourself back. You have to tell yourself that even attempting 80 questions might get you through. But if you do not practice, if you are not aware of the previous year question papers, the trends, the cutoffs, you will end up attempting 90 plus questions even in a tough paper. And trust me, those extra 10 questions, there is high probability that your accuracy will fall down in those 10 questions. So hold yourself back if paper is tough. If you find that this year paper is very easy, then you can, push the limits, attempt 90 or 95. So that is one way of managing accuracy. Second is, as I already told, go for concise sources, revise them multiple times, and if you find something really out of the box question, then do not panic, just leave it. Just strike it completely in your question paper so that even in the second, third read of question paper, you do not visit that question at all. Just strike it down. For example, the report based questions, I used to find them very tough. So in 2016, I marked report based questions as wrong, at least 2, 3 questions. In 2017, I went in with a mindset that as soon as I see a report based question that is not from my current affair notes, or if I'm not aware about it, I won't simply attempt it. I just strike them down in the question paper itself. So that really helped me in maintaining my accuracy.
Thank you, sir. With this, we have come to the end of the session. So, sir, any message that you would like to give to our aspirants?
Uh, I read a meme today only that exam to hoga hi. That is the only certain thing. आज हो या कल हो या 150 days बाद हो, एग्जाम तो होना ही है. Just that you can, if you have not prepared for prelims, still you will dedicate more time to prelims now, but then you have to prepare mains as well. If you have prepared for prelims well enough till now, then for those aspirants, next 60, 70 days can be dedicated to mains. So that is the only message I have.
That's a beautiful message, sir. So, in the end, I would like to tell our viewers about Guide IAS. The free lecture series has been running on our YouTube channel, so you can go and watch that. And we believe in serving and uplifting others. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your valuable time and joining us. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for having. Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.